This presentation is brought to you by the Zach Ross Foundation, a global philanthropic organization with a focus on poverty, education, and mental health.
All right, we're going to continue on with stress, health, and human flourishing. And today we're going to talk about kind of how to mitigate stress and what could we do to live a fruitful life and get over some of the challenges and obstacles of anxiety that we talked about, and some examples of scientific experimentations that's been done to show how stress operates in other animals besides ourselves. We talked last time about management, right? How we can manage stress, right? We use the word coping. Bless you. Coping. What is coping to you guys? What do we think coping with something is? What does that mean to cope? Yeah, exactly, right? It's just how well are you handling dealing with a potential thing, potential matter, right? A potential obstacle, challenge. And that's just, it all goes back to what we're saying, right? Hey, you don't really solve problems, right? When it comes to really our psyche and our physiological issues, but rather we manage, right? We manage things, right? We manage stress, not like you'll get rid of stress. We say, hey, I know how to manage my stress, I know how to manage my mind now, I know how to manage my diabetes, I know how to manage my blood pressure, I know how to manage all sorts of things. You don't solve these issues, right? You typically manage because life changes, and if you hit the issue before, it could come back again if you don't properly do the maintenance for that. Now, some interesting studies have been done with rats, particularly with Selye, who we talked about, I think, on Monday, right? And even before that, we talked about with Skinner, right? Skinner's box, Skinner's rats, how you use these laboratory experiments to understand how they learn. But particularly when it deals with stress, Selye found some pretty interesting things with rats, right? So we go back to the rat in the cage. At the bottom of the cage is electric floor, right? So basically you can shock the rat, right? You can shock the rat at any given time. Let's say we put a light in there, but the rat doesn't seize the light right now, right? The first rat. Now we shock the rat and observe his behavior, observe his stress levels, etc. And they go through the roof, right? The rat is frantic, doesn't know what to do, is running around the cage all crazy, and it has no idea exactly what happens, right? We repeat this process over and over. Eventually the rat dies. Why did the rat die? The rat goes to an early grave. Why would he die prematurely? Why we think the rat died? By shocking it over and over and over again. Anybody? There you go, right? Simple answer. The rat died from stress-related illnesses, right? Inflammation, right? Hey, you're jacking up your heart and your blood pressure too much, just like us. The rat's jacking up his sugar levels way too much, right? The rat could become diabetic, right? All these different things. So, as related to us, if we don't manage these shocks that we occur throughout our lives, we tend to lead to an early grave, right? The silent killer is stress. You know, stress can cause strokes, heart attacks, heart disease, all type of inflammation in the body, as well as psychotic disorders, right? This imbalance of hormones, this chemical messenger sent to our bodies goes out of whack. All right, second experiment, right? So we got the one rat in there. Now we got a second rat, right? But the second rat doesn't get shocked. He can only observe that the other rat gets shocked. What do you think happens to that rat, the second rat? Does anything happen to him? Does anything change about that rat? What do we think? How will that rat behave? Anybody want to guess? Okay, now that rat is stressed too. Why? Why is this rat stressed out? Thing X, going back to the Las Vegas gambling effect, because now we've introduced a maybe, right? Stress is the potential of a maybe happening, right? Which is why, hey, Vegas is so successful, all the casinos are so successful, they found out one of the greatest mysteries in the universe. That if you introduce a maybe, it's like opium to people, right? It's like cocaine, they'll keep coming back for a maybe. Hey, are you guys going to heaven? Maybe. With that potential, guess what? We will all try to be our best throughout our lives. I hope that maybe we can get there. Right? We'll all become very religiously fervent in our beliefs. We'll all try to learn more, do great things, be a better human being overall. And we don't know for certain the aftermath, right? We've introduced maybe. The same goes with anything, the social contract of marriage. We've introduced a maybe. That means so much, the value has increased by 100-fold of your relationship. Like, yeah, we've been dating for 10 years, but now we're getting married, so it's way more valuable now. Why? Because it's a social contract. There's potential of maybe. The maybe is just, I don't even know what it is, past marriage. Right? But there's something there. So yeah, second rat observes the first rat and think like, maybe I'll get shocked. I'm observing another entity of my species, another animal within my species. I see that he's hurt, and if I subject myself to viewing someone being hurt, I exhibit some of the same reactions that even a person being hurt observes. So you're like, well, there's a real physiological thing. This rat is being shocked, actually being electrically shocked. This old girl's just watching the other rat being shocked. But the same physiological, psychological processes are happening. Which means like, hey, don't view too many traumatic things on the phone, right? In real life. So what does that mean? That says, well, somebody in a certain state, a certain dire state, if they're observed by others, those people will have the same results. So I wanted to say one of the greatest, most strongest influences for a poor and unhealthy life is poverty. Right? So socioeconomic status has been shown that people who are born poor generally die younger. People who are, not born so poor. Right? Because once again, you're just a rat, an observer. You're being shocked, but you're also observing a bunch of other people being shocked, traumatized, and stressed out. So therefore, you're going to eat poorly for comfort. You're going to be stressed out about money quite frequently. And that stress is going to cause sicknesses and illnesses, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, being poor causes an early death too. Right? So think that socioeconomic status of people. So it's not just something that we can just overlook. All right, so now we introduce a light now, right? So the rats get shocked, but before they get shocked, we can put a light on. Now what happens in the time between? What we think happened with the rats between? Let's say the light comes on and they get shocked. They randomly get shocked within 5 minutes. They don't know when it's coming. What happens then to the stress? Same conclusions, right? The anticipation of something bad happening causes us to be stressed out, right? There's potential and you know it's coming at some point, you just don't know when, right? Once again, leads to poor health and early death for the rats. So we could go on and on and on with these sort of experiments with rats, right? Because rats are highly related to us as well too. And so this is how we come to coping. How do you manage? How do you cope? How do you guys cope with stress? Give me some of the stuff you do. How do you cope or manage your stress? Okay, let's go back to the lab experiment, right? We'll introduce in a piece of tree bark into the rat cage. What would be the point of putting a piece of tree bark in there? What do you think? Right, we give the rat something to do, something we will call a hobby. But now the rat in between can go chew on something and find something to do. Right? It's not just going to sit there and fixate and focus on potentially being shocked. Right? Which means that you guys should form some sort of hobbies. If not, you're going to fixate on back to the negative things and challenges in your life all the time. And life should not be all negative and full of obstacles and challenges that we perceive as bad. That's not how life should be, right? And we said we try to get balance. Yes, bad things. University. Thank you for watching.
This presentation was brought to you by the Zach Ross Foundation, a global philanthropic organization focusing on poverty, education, and mental health. We hope you've enjoyed.